Alrighty, welcome everyone. I'm Zetsubou, and you'll probably notice immediately that I am mildly drunk. I have had a couple of vodka plus lime plus honey plus sodas because today's been a really long day. We had Bubblegum Crisis, Tatami Galaxy, and 3 shows to watch today, and so I'm kind of unwinding at the moment. I've had a couple of those drinks, and I'm pretty dranktified, aka drunk. So this is a pretty shitty review of a couple of the shows that I watched today. I watched 3 new shows today. None of them were very good. None of them are something that you should necessarily watch. All of them are interesting for their own reasons, though. And again, this is drunk me saying that, so take that with a grain of salt. Fuck, this job is hard. I love it to pieces. I love everything about what I do, and I choose to do this to myself. There's nobody forcing me to watch every anime that comes out every season, but I do it anyway because it's kind of interesting and fun. Whatever. So we watched Tatami Galaxy finale, which is enough emotional gut punches on its own. And then we watched Bubblegum Crisis, which for episode 5 actually had some really super interesting shit. And then we watched 3 other things. So let's go through the 3 other things that we watched and determine whether you want to watch them. Hint / TLDW. You don't. None of them are very good. But we're going to go through them anyway because that's what I do. So, we started off with A3 season Spring and Summer. This is an adaptation of a manga, which is an adaptation of a kind of otome game, but it's not quite an otome game. Instead, it is a, quote, ikemen actor raising game, where girl, who is just girl and is pretty bland and boring, but has an okay character design, probably the worst character design of the entire series, but she exists and is a girl, ends up attempting to something with a bunch of ikemen actor boys. They're a bunch of ikemen actor boys. They're the whole point of the show, pretty obviously. There's one dude who looks like a snow cone, like a root beer snow cone with like a spurt of root beer flavoring on the top. There's one dude who looks like vanilla ice cream, but with like some chocolate sauce poured over him. The kind of chocolate sauce that hardens when you pour it over cold stuff. And then there are a couple of other boys. The main boy, I think is pink, and he's named after flowers and stuff, and he's a bud waiting to be opened. Honestly, this was a pretty good show. The problem for me personally is that I don't give a fuck about Ikemen, and I don't give a fuck about this actor shit. There are a whole bunch of really cringy scenes where the main boy and some other boys speak Shakespeare out into the random void and are cool because of it. It's not very good, and it's a pretty terrible interpretation of the particular Shakespeare lines that they're speaking. As someone who has a pretty good knowledge of Shakespeare, I was kind of put off by this situation and the whole thing going on here. But it works in context. The whole episode is pretty well produced. The characters look pretty good. The character designs are pretty solid, as you would expect from a game where the character designs are probably the main selling point, because they're probably the main selling point. If you want to fall in love with these ikemen, you probably can. If you're down for dudes, then this is probably a pretty good show. As far as otome game adaptations, this one's pretty good, given that it's coming out of Studio PA Works and 3 Hertz. It's pretty solid for what it is, but it is what it is, and it is nothing more, and you're not going to get a lot of depth out of it, or characters out of it, or anything. It's a bunch of pretty boys who do pretty things, and there's one girl, and they're all kind of mildly interested in her, maybe, but not really, because if one guy actually fell in love with her, then that would ruin the entire point of the show. So it's kind of shit, but it's also kind of okay. There are some attempts at good filmmaking in it. They're just attempts. They don't really function very well. It's okay. Yeah. This is basically exactly what you would expect from looking at the box. It's essentially an Otome game adaptation, and it does all the things that it needs to do to be a pretty good Otome game adaptation, but it is what it is, and if you're interested in it, you're gonna be interested in it, and if you're not interested in it, then, like me, you're not gonna be interested in it. It has all kinds of weird things in it, like weird facial expressions and kind of mediocre sense of depth and space in terms of where characters are going in the episode. But all in all, it attempts to hit certain emotional beats, and maybe those resonate with some people. They don't really resonate with me because two boys speaking Shakespeare in a really bad way to each other and having the music sort of swell in that moment is kind of lame, and I don't give a fuck. But I didn't give a fuck going in, and that's probably more on me than it is on the show. For what it is, the show is probably the best Otome game adaptation that I've ever seen, so if you like that shit, give it a shot. It's probably up your alley, and it's probably the best thing that's up your alley, so it might be really good. Next. How do I talk about ARP? ARP. I have no idea. This show is something different. I mean, it's really different. I mean, it's magically fucked up. Okay, so I said it in the reaction, and because I'm drunk and can't come up with new ideas, I'll say it again. This show's budget was one potato, two sprigs of green onion, and one fully functional CGI rig with an entirely capable motion capture system. The studio making it, I closed the tab that had the studio name on it, and I don't care enough to actually go and find it. But the studio that made this made a couple of full CG short films in the past, and that experience shows. They're not bad at their CG. The CG that actually occurs in the show, which is idle boys dancing, because duh, it's idle boys dancing, is pretty fucking good. Everything else in the show is not. This studio is not equipped to handle 2D animation, and it shows. There is pretty wacky attempts to be deep. It's pretty bad. The entirety of the first episode is we start with a CG dance number because we gotta start on our strong suit, and it's pretty strong. As far as CG dance numbers go, it's pretty good. It's pretty obviously motion captured from real dancers, then applied to all of the characters at once so that they're all in unison. But it's pretty good. There's lots of dynamic camera and interesting things, and it's not interesting at all. And then we cut to 2D, and the first cut of this show demonstrates everything that I expected from it. The first cut shows not a single character face speaking and actively attempts and succeeds to hide all of the character faces when they're speaking. Because they can't animate character faces very well at all. And later in the show, we find out that that is indeed the fact. They can't animate character faces very well. They don't know how to character acting. Big air quotes on character acting. They just have no idea what the fuck they're doing and don't have either the time, budget, or staff or expertise to make the 2D segments work. And they don't. The CG segments, however, are pretty damn good. I don't think that I can say that I have ever in my life seen a show where the CG dance numbers are actually genuinely the highlight. I did not watch the full episode of ARP because it was shit. And I will not watch the full episode of ARP or any more episodes of ARP because it was shit. Now, afterward, I discovered some things. One of the things I discovered is that this is a virtual / augmented reality project. ARP, if you will. These are Kizuna idols, if you will. They are virtual reality or augmented reality idol boys. They don't exist. The characters / people / seiyuu / singers / whatever behind them are anonymous, entirely anonymous. They do not exist. I thought going in that this was, let's take real idol group, let's make show about them. Money. Nope, they don't exist. They are like Hatsune Miku, except they have real people behind them. And real fake characters. And they suck. Their dances and their songs are fine, maybe, but everything else is pretty shit. Don't watch this show. Or, if you want half an episode of interesting dumpster fire, watch this show, because it's an interesting dumpster fire. But it's not worth watching. The last thing that I watched today is actually something that came out yesterday, which I missed. I didn't really miss it. I knew it was coming out. I just didn't give a damn. It's 22/7 or Aboon no something or other. This is an idol show with a group of real idol girls voicing all of their not real idol girl protagonists / everybody else characters. It's pretty okay. I wouldn't disrespect anybody for liking this show. Let's put it that way. There are things here that are worth liking. The main thing here worth liking is the fact that the main KyoAni character designer, who has designed the characters for most of KyoAni shows, designed all the characters here, and all the character designs are fucking awesome. They're really good. Like, they're really good. However, the entire show is animated by A1 Pictures and their standard freelancer thing. There's a particular intrigue in watching A1 Pictures attempt to do the KyoAni and not do the KyoAni. There's a massive difference between the type of not only aesthetic but also atmosphere that A1 attempts to achieve here in this show and doesn't hit the mark. Now, granted, nobody does KyoAni like KyoAni. KyoAni has not only budget but time and scheduling and allocation of resources like nobody else. They care about their fucking artists and they treat them well, and that shows in their animation. What's interesting is that the opposite also shows in its animation and production and direction. This particular show is directed by Takao Abo, the guy who directed Shield Hero, and he's alright. He's okay. He just kind of doesn't do the conveyance thing as well as he probably could / should to make a show as interesting as this one actually pop and actually have an impact on its viewers. That said, I think there are plenty of things in this show to like. I just don't like them. And that's me personally, and says very little about the show because I'm just one dude who watches a lot of anime and is like, this thing isn't good. My opinion doesn't fucking matter. It's unimportant. But if you're watching this video to the end, then maybe my opinion matters to you, and I'll tell you what I think about 22/7 or Nanabun no whatever. It's alright. It's got some things to like in it. It's got some intrigue. It's got some strange world building-y setup. It's not quite what I would have expected from this is an idol show made about real-world idols, but in anime. But at the same time, it's exactly what I would expect. It attempts desperately to do the KyoAni atmosphere and fails miserably at achieving that goal. But it does achieve something a couple of tiers above what the usual idol show achieves, which is saying something, I would say. The character designs are all really solid. The characters themselves are unique, I guess, but not compared to other shows. All of them fit various archetypes, and you can pretty easily categorize them if you really want to. There's nothing here that's new or terribly interesting, and the Seiyu talent is not talented. Unfortunately, all of the people that they cast for Seiyus are the actual actors and actresses, read idols, who are idols in this group, and none of them have voice acting talent, and it shows. It's actually really interesting because there's one sequence where the main girl, who has a very deep voice for an idol, let alone for a seiyu of female characters, and could probably, with some training and understanding of acting, voice shonen protagonists pretty well. You know the type. Kind of like Nana Mizuki, except without all of the widespread and incredibly immense talent and ability to express emotion. So, without all of the things that make Nana Mizuki fucking awesome, she exists and she says lines, and the lines are lines and they exist, and none of them have any emotional impact or value because she doesn't know what the fuck she's doing. And that's okay, because she's not a seiyu, she's an idol. She sings real good, but she doesn't talk real good. And that's a bit of a problem in a show slash medium where talking is really important. Same goes for most of the girls. Some of them are more innately talented at this than others, some of them are not. But what's really interesting is that the main character has a little sister character and a mother character, and both of them are voiced by hired seiyu, and you can tell. You can absolutely tell that they are professionals at this particular form of the entertainment industry, and she is not. And the contrast is absolutely amazing. So, I would say watch this show. It's got plenty of interesting elements. The main one being an object within the story. I will do my best to be vague because spoilers. An object within the story that very literally is a plot device. It is a device which spits out plot. And people are probably going to take this as interesting and valuable and crazy. Nobody's ever done anything like this before. I will assure you that it is a device that spits out plot, and its existence in this story, while it adds a supernatural element of sorts, is nothing more than a convenience to the writers of the show. It's pretty fucking silly when you think about it from that perspective, and I would recommend that you think about it from that perspective. It might not be the right perspective, it might have tons of intrigue behind it, but given its function in episode 1, I believe firmly that it is nothing more than a plot device, and I would not recommend this show. But I would recommend watching episode 1 of this show and attempting to determine, 1, the difference between this show and the works that KyoAni has actually put out, and 2, the things in this show that are utterly trite and absurd, mainly the main character's dialogue. I think whoever's writing the script for this show, and there are 2 people listed as series composition and 0 people listed for script on an anime original, essentially, should be shot. They should be taken out back and shot. And that's my take on this show. Okay. Those are the 3 shows that I watched today. I'm Tiaboo. I'm pretty drunk. Those are probably shitty takes, but they're what I got. So, I'm gonna, go to sleep or something, because I know that Sayonara Zetsubou Sensei is gonna murder me tomorrow morning. So, it's been a long day. I hope you've enjoyed these shows as much or more than I have. Honestly, if you enjoyed them more power to you. All of them are fraught with various problems, interesting problems, to the point where each show has its own unique set of problems that is genuinely of interest. And I would recommend watching the first couple minutes of each of them. unless they absolutely offend you for some reason, just because it's such a strange and interesting lineup of shows for a day that you might as well check them out. I will say I did not get to Pet episode 2 today because it's been a really fucking long day and I put it off because everything else was coming out. I'll get to it tomorrow because we only have Sayonara Zetsubou Sensei tomorrow, and that's not a massive deal, although it will probably shatter my brain into a couple thousand pieces. Regardless, these are the shows that I watched today. I have no one to blame but myself. I made myself watch this shit. Most of it's shit. None of it I will be continuing. Yay. Peace.